Returning to our top story, Melbourne's prospect of emerging from lockdown this week is still a day-by-day proposition as the state reports 4 new local cases. Joining me live to discuss the lockdown is our political panel, Ben Oquist from the Australia Institute and James Bolt from the Institute of Public Affairs. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Ben, let's start with you. Case numbers are low. There's only 3 mystery cases. Most primary contacts are returning negative tests. Should the lockdown be lifted early?
Well, let's hope it can be lifted early. Have to take the advice of the health officials, of course. But the reality is these lockdowns are going to keep coming unless we can get quarantine and vaccination rollout sorted and have better contact tracing than we've had in the past. I think Victoria was too slow to have the QR code system in full operation here in Canberra or in New South Wales. They've had that great app for a long time. We just need the one app and you get in and out of places quickly and easily. And I think that's been a failure at the state level. Still unclear why Victoria has had more trouble than other states, and all sorts of reasons being proposed. But the reality is, wherever the health advice is saying that lockdown is the best system, you've got to do it. As tough as that is, and I know many Victorians have really had enough, but there's only one thing worse than a lockdown, and that's a huge 3rd, 4th or 5th wave, and the terrible disruption and lockdowns that would come from that. Prevention is better than cure. In the long run, though, the vaccination rollout has got to be faster and better, and our hotel quarantine system needs to be better, and our quarantine system needs to be better, because 99.9% isn't good enough when a case can break out from hotel quarantine in South Australia and cause these problems in Victoria. So more work to be done at the federal level to sort out quarantine and have non-hotel facilities that are much better, and get that vaccination rollout going more quickly. We're lagging behind the world.
James, you're in lockdown. The Victorian government has announced another $32 million support package for tourism operators. How much longer can the state afford to be in lockdown?
Not another day. We could not afford this lockdown at the start. We certainly couldn't afford it at the extension. And now, there's rumours that it might be extended this day by day even longer. We can't afford that either. Ben said that Victorians have had enough with lockdown. I don't think that's going far enough. This is a broken state right now, and we need to come out of lockdown. We cannot keep pushing this elimination strategy target. It is destroying businesses. I've been seeing on this network the mental health aspects that are being reported. It is destroying people's mental health as well. This cannot go on for another day. This has to be our last lockdown.
Ben, there are reports a government minister in Victoria has told businesses snap lockdowns won't stop until 70% of the population is vaccinated. What are your thoughts on that hard target?
Well, my goodness, we're a long way from 70%, aren't we? And that just underscores the need to get this vaccination rollout going better, and not just in Australia but around the world. Too little has been done so far to get the vaccine rolled out in poorer countries, because as many people have said, and I've been struck by the comments of former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark, who said no one is safe until we're all safe, and unless the world collectively gets its act together to roll out the vaccine more quickly globally, it won't just be wrong for those who haven't got the vaccine, those countries and communities that aren't safe, but it'll rebound in Australia as the variants get out of control, and then our own vaccines don't work. So it's a big effort that's not being done successfully enough in Australia, but it's not being done successfully enough around the world. And I guess overall, that really points to that we're in an age that requires a much stronger, more active government at state, federal and national level, whether it's dealing with these issues and many other issues of our age like climate change or great technological disruption. But if the pandemic has taught us anything, we can't enfeeble our state. We need a stronger, more active government operating at all levels, multilaterally, internationally, but domestically. We need better ability to roll out things like a vaccination. Only the government can do that, and a better ability to have a much better quarantine system that's not left to hotels that aren't designed for it. We need a stronger, more active government to achieve achieve those things. And I think that's one of the big lessons of the pandemic age.
James, is a 70% vaccination rate too ambitious?
That was one of the most terrifying reports I've read for some time. I mean, we are currently at this state at about a 3% level of vaccination. So when you hear someone say that we need 70% vaccination before we can get rid of lockdowns forever, all I'm hearing is that it's going to be lockdown strategies from now until well into next year and potentially years after that. That terrifies me. It's just, look, we can't keep on with this elimination strategy. The only possible argument for a lockdown is to give people time to help the elderly and help those most at risk and to make sure that the hospitals have what it takes to deal with any outbreaks. It has been a year. That is done. We have a vaccine. We're very slowly rolling it out, but we can take care of those vulnerable, and hospitals have chances to deal with outbreaks. There is absolutely no more reason to support a lockdown, and suddenly we're potentially having lockdowns well into 2023. I'm terrified.
Ben, federal Labor wants a dedicated quarantine hub built in every state and territory. Do you think that's achievable?
Well, it certainly would have been achievable if we'd started when those who were recommending it at the highest levels of government and public servants and advisors were suggesting so. I know South Australian Premier has come out today and said he doesn't want one, but the opposition leader, Oquist, has said South Australia, like other states, should have one. The Queensland government wants one, the Victorian government wants one, the New South Wales government wants one. There is no reason that we can't get them rolled out and built quickly. When the nation state wants to move, it can move fast. We saw that with the economic response during the pandemic, the rollout of a Job Seeker and Job Keeper, which were good policies that kept the economy going, along with, of course, I hear James saying we can't have lockdown, we can't have this elimination strategy. But, of course, what has set Australia up so well is the effective health response, matched by some good big government economic policy, has meant we're in a much better position, and our economy has come back much faster because we've had elimination and because of a strong role for government intervention in the economy when we need it. And again now, the government, and only the government, can do it if it acts fast. Put in place a much better quarantine system than we've got, because hotels weren't built for quarantine, and 99.9% is good, as the Prime Minister said, but it's not perfect. And 20 outbreaks out of hotel quarantine, it's what causes the problems in Melbourne, was the breakout of quarantine. So let's go up a level. Yeah, sure, complain about the lockdowns. None of us want them. But here's the solution. If we go up a level, fix the quarantine, then you won't need the lockdown.
James, what's your thoughts on that, just quickly?
I thought it was pretty funny that the federal Labor government thinks that the Morrison government can handle quarantine a bit better than state Labor governments. Good to see some form of unity at the federal level. Ben said that it's amazing what can happen when the nation state rolls quickly, and I thought we were just having a conversation about how painfully slow our vaccination program is. So forgive me for thinking if we committed to a federal quarantine program, it wouldn't be ready for the next week or two. It would be something ready far, far down the track. But look, these things are extremely expensive to build. They're going to take a very long time to put in. And our hotel quarantine program, I know no Victorian wants to hear this right now, but nationally it's actually doing quite well. Look, one thing I do want to see is the federal government commit more to home quarantine. Now, my little brother just got back from the US. He's been double vaccinated, but he still had to spend 14 days in a hotel room. Home quarantine seems to be something that can very easily take a lot of pressure off the hotel quarantine and the need to build federal quarantine facilities. And it's something a whole lot fairer on Australians returning home from overseas from countries with low risk or countries where they have been vaccinated. I think that's the low-cost alternative we need to explore.
Gentlemen, we're out of time, but I really appreciate you joining me on Weekend Live this afternoon. Ben Oquist from the Australian Institute and James Bolt from the Institute of Public Affairs. Thanks again.
20% get nothing. They're really unfair tax cuts.
People want to see much stronger action from the government when it comes to climate change.
It's no coincidence that we have a wages crisis in Australia.
Transitioning to net zero emissions, it doesn't seem like there's much room for gas.